Hi guys, we're back at chapter 2 and this time we're going to look at the second subtopic of chapter 2 under cultural considerations. So now that we have completed ethics, we're moving on to a new area. As usual, I would like you to come here, stop the video at this point, scan the QR code and watch this short video about intercultural communication, and then once you're done, come back again. Alright, let's begin today's video with definitions, our favorite. So the definition of culture, it's again very important. We've seen it in exams before. You've been asked the definition of culture, so make sure to include those words that are colored and in bold. So culture is a system of values and norms that are shared, very important, among a group of people, and that when taken together, constitute a design for living. So that's what culture essentially is within a country, could also be within an organization. Next, now, how can culture affect global business practices? If you notice, in the previous subtopic, we're talking about ethics in global business practices. Now we're looking at how culture can impact that. Why is it important to consider culture? This is because culture is different. There are a lot of differences in culture and it impacts on business practices, especially when expanding to a country that you know nothing about. So a lot of awareness is needed. So what are the cultural considerations that we focus on in this chapter? Now there are 6. You should know all 6. We look at education, customs, holidays and celebrations, religious beliefs, business etiquette, and communication protocol. We will go through each one of these briefly. Just as an introduction to you, you will have to look through your manual and we will discuss further in class. Now, what does levels of education mean? Now, depending on the country, when the level of education is higher or lower, it is a very powerful predictor of the wealth of a country over time. So we have countries that are developing, we have underdeveloped countries, we have developed countries, third world countries, first world countries. We have different kinds of countries with different kind of levels of education. So depending on the level of education of whichever country you're referring to, it can affect availability of skilled workers. If you're talking about skilled workers, you are referring to people of higher education level. So bear that in mind. It affects business functions because it affects what kind of people you can hire and therefore what kind of businesses you can do. It affects marketing strategy. Are you going to use more pictures, more words? Are you going to be more scientific? Are you going to give more graphs, more numbers, using colors? These are things that are very important. And also, it can result in knowledge divide. Think about this, figure out what it means. Next thing, there are customs. Now, customs of different countries affect how you behave and conduct yourself in public and business situations. So working hours could be different from country to country. There are different eating habits. Remember, when you go for meetings, negotiations, especially here in Malaysia, every meeting starts and ends with food. So if you don't manage yourself very well, you might have some difficulties. And then of course, meal time. What time do you have your lunch? It could be different from country to country. Do you call meal times the same thing? Do you call dinner supper and supper something else? Then there are social gatherings, unavoidable when you have to network in business. Gift giving. What constitutes gifts? What's a bribe? From country to country is not the same. And then of course the role of women. This totally changes depending on what kind of countries. Are you at a liberal country, conservative country? What is their view of what women should do in society? And of course this also affects how you greet them as well. The holidays and celebrations, once again, affecting the availability of clients and staff. If everyone's on holiday, who's working, who's buying things? Usually holidays are affected by religion. And a very important thing here, international managers, someone from overseas coming here to work, they should participate in local festivals. Malaysians love to invite foreigners to join them in food, like durian and all that, right? So this will help improve the morale of local employees. Next one, religious beliefs. There's a definition to this. So what's religion? A system of common beliefs and attitudes concerning a being or a system of thought that people consider to be sacred, divine, or the highest truth. Now this is like deep down, real personal. So if you're going to a country that's highly religious, you have to ensure that all your business ethics, practices, decisions are carefully thought out. And then of course there's business etiquette. This is more of what kind of behavior. This is not so much customs, which is more of like a general thing. This is very specific to business, especially during negotiations. So there are certain elements that we can kind of use as examples. How formal should conversations be, or your behavior be? Modesty in terms of dressing and speech. Are you very casual? Do you use certain words? How do you dress? Punctuality, gifts, greetings. They like to say that Japanese bow, right? Do they still bow nowadays? They probably do. So you have to let them make the first move and then you follow. Whether to offer a handshake first, whether to nod, whether to whatever the methods of greeting, one has to be aware. And then of course business cards. We will talk a little bit more about business cards, especially in terms of the Japanese culture. Communication protocol are ways whereby people disseminate information depending on how you communicate to people. Now in business, it's all about communication. It could be through email, it could be through verbal communication, non-verbal communication, it could be eye contact, could be anything. So sometimes even a simple thing like a handshake can say a lot. Is it a firm handshake, a soft handshake? What kind of handshake? How formal you are? Do you make direct eye contact during conversations or do you look away? What kind of conversation topics should you start a discussion with? So these are very important things to note. Now for all of you, I would like you to consider each cultural consideration and identify at the very least 2 countries that are very different. And then for every consideration, there were 6, right? Try to see how each of these 2 countries are different. Maybe you're going to pick US versus Korea. How are their communication protocols different? Or how are their business etiquettes different? This will be very helpful for you, especially during revision time, because sometimes in the exams, they would like to ask for real life examples and you have to have some at the back of your mind to use for your answers. So do this and we will definitely run through in class. And so this is the end of the slideshow. Thank you so much for watching this video. Go back and have a look at your manual and look at past year exam questions to see how exam questions will appear under this subtopic. Thank you so much. See you in class.